Just over 1,300 canoeists prepare themselves for the start of the 41st Dusi Canoe Marathon from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, a 3-day saga covering 120 kilometers of paddling and cross-country running, regarded as one of the toughest endurance races in the country, with almost a third of the distance covered on foot. Dusi King Graham Pope Ellis at Campsdrift in conversation with Ernie Pierce and Ian Player, the legends of the Dusi from the early 50s. So far this year, not a big worry about the hygiene. Last year, the pollution, a great worry. The adrenaline pumping just before the start of the race, the seeded paddlers waiting to be given the signal. Pope Ellis using conventional paddlers while his partner, Kevin White, is using the wing, as are so many other paddlers. Sharing commentary with me, 3 times winner of the Dusi and the only non-Natal paddler to win the race, Roelof van Riet.
The start is always of the utmost importance, especially here with the steep and narrow fish run just around the corner.
A great sprint at the start here as the paddlers go for the first obstacle, the Ernie Pierce Weir. A lot of traffic, there's nerves, adrenaline, and anything can happen on this first stage.
And already we see the classic diamond formation. Perrow and Evans, probably the top doubles combination on water in South Africa at the moment.
Many of the paddlers will take that chance of trying to get down the Ernie Pierce Weir, but if there's traffic, people can fall over, and then of course all sorts of tempers and expletives are given out.
It's not Fisher from the Cape getting perhaps not quite the welcome we'd hoped for.
Commercial road weir, safer to take it on the left-hand bank than to try and shoot it. And the next obstacle, Mussens Weir, drama here for Watermeyer and Clark. As the Edmonds brothers go past, Watermeyer and Clark break the nose of their boat and are out of the race.
Low-level bridge, and this is where the first choice between paddling and running is to be made. Pope Ellis and Clark electing to run the conventional portage, and most of the other paddlers electing to paddle.
Perrow and Evans deciding to take the middle of the sewage farm portages, a steep climb out of the valley. They're followed by Tar and Cornish, who all of a sudden decide to take a left-hand turn and take their own route up to Campbell's farm. The safer route, that along the road, is taken by Pope Ellis and Kevin White. But for some, it's not so much a matter of running as being coerced along that long, hilly slog.
And this is where the backmarkers realize they're on the Dusi. The 2 Andres, Harwarden and Collins, respectively winners of the Berg and Dusi, and expected to do well in the veteran section.
Important in the Dusi, it's a 3-day event and one has to pace oneself properly. You can easily blow out on the first day. A familiar sight, the top women, Jenny Bentel and her twin sister, Marlene Lowenstein, and first to the Bishopstow Hall, the Edmonds brothers. And surprising many of the people, in second position, Gavin Tarr and Tim Cornish, having decided fairly late to paddle together. Then Bruce Wenker and Les Kay, also looking very good, despite the grimace there. Behind them, Pope Ellis and Kevin White, with the first Transvaalers, Mark Perrow and Neil Evans, right behind them.
The territory now very much more rough, and you really have to watch your step, and Ken Reynolds, unfortunately, didn't do quite that and fractured a knee and is out of the race.
One of the unique things about the Dusi, as Reynolds is taken to the rescue helicopter, is that many of the injuries happen off the river. In the running sections, it's so easy to trip on these uneven roads.
And amazing as it seems, even in the 41st year, a new portage is discovered with Pope Ellis and partner Kevin White taking a new portage and actually scoring as much as 1 minute on the then leaders, the Edmund brothers. Round the hole in the wall, and there we have Wenker and Kay with Pope Ellis and White hot on their heels. The getting in and getting out of the boat is of the utmost importance because it's so often done in this race, which is one of the factors that totally distinguishes this event from other canoeing marathons.
Also, the decision of whether to take a longer paddle or a shortcut on the run, very difficult because it's very easy to take the wrong path in this very thick bush. A lot of lantana growing in these valleys, of course that being an alien plant, and it's very difficult to get through, tears the skin to ribbons.
A smallish rapid en route to Guineafell Walk, The Edmonds brothers negotiating this without much problem, but always cautious of the rocks and therefore not going too fast. Wenke and Kay, Cornish, Tar, and no problems really, certainly not for Graham Pope Ellis.
Up on the Guinea Fowl portage, first aid stations very necessary in this race. And for some, that drink very necessary, a former winner.
Really great, especially when Roloff van Riet's passing.
Going downhill, not as easy as it looks with the weight of the boat bearing down on your legs. And great drama at Dusi Bridge with the leaders, the Edmonds brothers, experiencing exactly what the backwash, why the backwash of a weir makes it quite so treacherous.
Oh, it was frightening, it really was. We went over, I went very deep. So my paddles are underneath the water, and the boat just twisted. There's obviously a current underneath there twisting the boat. And then I got pulled back into the stopper. I spent a long time there.
Yeah, unfortunately we came across there and Bruce and Les were swimming in front of us and we hit their boat and went underneath their boat and we had no option but to get out of our boat as well.
Cornish and Tar then having a lucky break, making it through the dangerous weir, which was closed off afterwards to protect the paddlers. A good lead for top women Jenny Bentel and Marlene Lowenstein. And there's that Roloff van Riet man again, his partner Hansie Botha from Milnerton.
And that man Steve Britton and partner Dave Knott.
And for some of the less fortunate, many a broken boat on this first day with a tricky level of water. Not as easy as it looks, despite the fact that the water can hardly be described as high.
It's much lower than last year, but certainly more tricky.
And finishing the day one stage then with a lead of 2 minutes and 16 seconds, a very happy Gavin Tar and Tim Cornish. They're followed by somewhat disappointed-looking Edmonds brothers, who managed to get back out of the water, but a great surprise it was for them. Then Pope Ellis and White in third position.
I thought we had a good chance of doing well on the first day, but it's very nice to be in front.
A breather then for the Natal paddlers on the first day, but the Transvaal challenge, Neil Evans.
We were pretty pleased because we paced ourselves, conserving ourselves for the 3-day race. So we've come in, although we're behind, we didn't push ourselves too hard that we'll be of no good tomorrow. So we're looking forward to a good day tomorrow. It's a fair gap, but it'll be a good chase.
And so after a long, hot day for most of the paddlers in their seconds, at last a chance to rest those weary muscles. A 2 minute 16 gap then for Cornish and Tar, 4 Natal boats in the top 4 and 4 minutes 30 behind Perrow and Evans.
An early start to day 2 and already very hot, which doesn't augur well with the remaining hill portage at hand.
Many of the paddlers enjoy camping in the valley while others prefer to go to private homes or hotels. But for the campers, there's all the atmosphere, the newspapers which are delivered, and just getting ready for that second day. 38 kilometers, a fairly tough stage with a lot of paddling and a lot of running, getting those muscles going, saying last goodbyes to seconds, and in elapsed time, the leaders go off, Tar and Cornish, with that 2 minute 16 cushion on the rest of the field.
It's the running now, of course, quite a bit less than on the first day. There we have the Edmonds brothers. The start not as furious as on the first day for the simple reason that it is an elapsed time and there's no slipstreaming effect. Pope Ellis, White, and Wenke and Kay only just behind them. And the question everybody's asking is whether Perrow and Evans, starting now, will be able to erase the lead with the greater portion of paddling that lies ahead.
Like an inland version of the sardine run, as Perrow and Evans really get into gear, hoping to make good that gap, and the Edmonds brothers now their target.
Yes, the first of 3 very dangerous obstacles, the slide rapid, which they attempt and successfully negotiate, and the only front crew to do so. And immediately around the corner, we have the Ibis Point rapid, which they then also shoot, whilst in the distance we see Cornish and Tar portaging against the backdrop of the forest. That is Ibis Point. And the only front crew to attempt, and in fact probably the only crew in the race to attempt, and certainly the only crew in the race to attempt the gauging weir. Completely submerged, they managed to score and to secure the lead, if only temporarily at this point.
Always a gamble whether to take that obstacle in the river or to run safely on the bank and possibly lose a bit of time. The next obstacle, the toughest climb on day 2, Umkomaas Hill. For the front runners, it doesn't look that easy. For the people in the middle of the field, it is murderous. Pope Ellis and White making good progress along here, and then it's a matter of getting back into the river and taking on the really big obstacles.
Hippo Rock, not quite so big, but at a very tricky level, and the paddlers, in attempting to avoid the current flowing into the large rock on their left, go perhaps too far to the right and pay the penalty, which is almost fatal with the competition being what it is. The Edmonds brothers would have seen, perhaps not have believed their luck, having shot the 3 large rapids earlier on, but they do the same, and there they go. Pope Ellis, being the most experienced man in the field, certainly one would have expected to quite easily have negotiated Hippo Rocks. He must have done this hundreds of times in his time, but the same fate awaits him. And one just wonders what the partners say to each other at times such as this. The Edmonds brothers back in their boat, their Wenke and Kay, in an attempt to now secure the lead for the first time in the race, and they get through. Now the question is, of course, what will happen to Perrow and Evans, but Perrow, being the South African whitewater champion, has no problems. They are through, and now the chase begins, because there are only but 3 or 4 rapids before the flat water starts, and then one can expect these two to really crack on the pace.
The Natal crews then having made it to Inanda Dam first, with Pope Ellis pulling the other 2 boats along. Important to try and work together in a diamond, but the big question is who does all the work up front when you're so competitive.
And the finishing point now approaching, Perrow and Evans really cracking on the pace and quite amazingly managing to catch up with the leaders. Now it's a question of a sprint for the finish, and nobody is going to hold Perrow and Evans. But important, these seconds are very important for the last day, and there we have them at the end of a 3-hour paddle, still going strongly. Cornish and Tar holding on to second place, managing to hold on to the slip, with the other 2 Natal crews actually dropping off the slip, although only seconds behind. Pope Ellis in 3rd place, and the Edmonds brothers. And these few boat lengths may cost them dearly tomorrow at the start.
So much then for that 4.5-minute cushion Cornish and Tar had on the Transvaalers. Well, for the runners further back in the field, drama on and off the water as boats are patched, and runners, walkers, make sure that they take in enough liquid, important in this very hot weather. And the top women, Marlene Lowenstein and Jenny Bentel, now with a very comfortable lead, negotiating Marianne Foley Causeway.
So they really make it look easy, and they show that it's not just all brawn. Tomby, probably the biggest rapid on this stretch, certainly. And if you don't shoot it in exactly the right spot, as these 2 didn't, it's tickets.
It pays also to do your homework or rely on experience. Roelof van Riet and Hansie Poorter going through perfectly, no problems. But for many of the lesser experienced paddlers, it is safer to walk around these obstacles. Even in a low river, it can be very dangerous. It's not just the big water which causes problems.
Western Province paddlers, they're perhaps not knowing the river quite as well and taking the left-hand side of Tomby, which is the more difficult. Although this single shows us quite how it should be done.
And more drama further back in the field, again off the river. A broken ankle in this case. Lucky again to have that rescue helicopter there to take the casualty to hospital. The medical tent at the end, a few stitches, dehydration, but everybody's okay. Welcome back to the start of the 3rd day here at Inanda Dam. There's a promise of lots of action on the river. John, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think the scene's set for a very exciting finish at Blue Lagoon today. We've got 3 classic Dusi combinations led by Tim Cornish's boat, Pope Ellis, And, of course, they'll be chasing the Transvaal crew of Neil Evans and Mark Perrow. Probably the most powerful K2 combination in the country at the moment. And as far as paddling goes, they'll be very, very hard to beat. If they don't make a mistake going over Burma Road, I think I'll put my money on them for today.
Thankfully, a nice, cool, cloudy morning. Something the paddlers were certainly hoping for. And is he tired, bashful, or just totally exhausted? Some fresh water for the showers, something new this year, some final adjustments to the boat, and hope that the sun won't come out too much. Vitally important on this third day, as team tactics are being discussed, that it's not too hot. For the seconds, matter of final preparations, helping the paddlers to get down to the boats and then get out on the road.
Tension on the water as Transvaal's Mark Perrow and Neil Evans blast away towards the Ananda Dam wall, with Tim Cornish and Gavin Tarr on their slip. They'll probably want to build up a big lead today to try and keep away from the Dusi master. Here he is, Graham Pope Ellis, partnered by young Kevin White. Behind them, very experienced crew, the Edmund brothers, John and Andrew. They've got a lot of ground to make up.
And talking of that ground, extremely difficult just to make up that sort of distance with these top paddlers all going as fast as they can. Hearts pumping and really trying to outdo each other on the water. The idea is to get into the slip of the other boat, then the second boat can paddle a lot easier. And here, Cornish and Tarr are being made to do the work by Evans and Perrow. It was thought that before the race, Evans and Perrow would open up a gap and try and get away from everybody else.
Ananda Dam dammed back the Dusi. It's changed the nature of this race tremendously, and it's definitely been to the advantage of these strong Transvaal paddlers, Perrow and Evans, as they reach the takeout to the long portage first. They're followed by Tarr and Tim Cornish, a former British international, and the Edmonds brothers and the old master of the Dusi, Graham Pope Ellis and Kevin White.
At this level, even 1 or 2 seconds delay can make the difference in the final result of the race. Pope Ellis, not always that fast, but he's so wily on the river. He probably knows that he can make up that somewhere else down the river. His knowledge of this river is superb.
But it's Gavin Tarr and Tim Cornish who reach the put-in first, ahead of the Transvaal crew of Perrow and Evans, who's shadowing them closely.
What strikes one about getting back in below the dam wall is that the water is a different color and it's a lot cooler. And with the cloudy conditions, this makes for very pleasant paddling on the third day.
John and Andrew Edmonds. John, a former singles winner, and they'll be chasing Perrow and Evans the whole way today.
Perrow and Evans have spent a number of weekends down on this section of the river, making sure that they don't make any mistakes in the race. And there is their big adversary, Pope Ellis, who knows this section of the river particularly well. He's hoping to train Kevin White to eventually to take over his position. The paddlers now going down towards Side Shoot, a tricky rapid, but Perrow and Evans, now having taken over from Tarr and Cornish, seem to have no trouble with that.
Behind them, Graham Pope Ellis and Kevin White paddling strongly, followed closely by the Edmund brothers, John and Andrew, as they approach Umkomaas Rapid. A tricky rapid, but at this level, not a great volume of water. They get through without any problems. And as they reach the takeout to the stamina-sapping Burma Road portage, it's the Transvaal pair of Perrow and Evans who get out first. And they're followed in by Tarr and Tim Cornish. Their tactics here are probably going to be to dictate the pace from the front in the very, very narrow channels in the bush.
One can appreciate the supreme fitness of these people as they go up. Pope Ellis always runs up here. For most of us in the middle, it's a matter of walking.
A critical point in the race here is the leaders Perrow and Evans make a mistake, letting Tarr and Cornish through. They'll now go for the top at a gallop and try and build up a lead over the stronger paddlers. The Edmonds brothers running strongly, very strong portages. They'll be trying to make up a lot of ground here. And they're followed by Graham Pope Ellis and Kevin White.
And getting back to the poor unfortunates in the middle of the field, they at least have the wet footprints to follow. These people up front have nothing. If they make that false move, they could lose the race.
Over the top from Burma, the descent to the river below always hammers the paddlers' bodies. And Mark Perrow taking strain here with Neil Evans having to drag the boat as he takes a breather. And drama for the Edmonds brothers. Johnny Edmonds twisted his ankle and his brother, a former Natal cross-country runner, pulling the boat ahead of him as the paddlers reach Pump House Rapid.
No doubt a relief to be back in the water after damaging his ankle. John Edmonds' craft through these tricky rapids is extremely good, as of course is Pope Ellis. But again, for the paddlers in the middle of the field, it was very difficult finding one's way down this medium level of river. Perrow and Evans finding just that problem, mounting rocks and luckily managing to get above those rocks.
Gavin Tarr and Tim Cornish still in the lead here, mere 1:45 seconds ahead. And behind them, pouring on the power, the Transvaal combination of Perrow and Evans with Graham Pope Ellis and Kevin White hanging on grimly. Seconds behind the leaders, Gavin Tarr and Tim Cornish.
And this is where the efforts of Perrow and Evans really started in earnest. They had dropped the Edmonds brothers, they had dropped Pope Ellis, and in their sights now, Cornish and Tarr. And here, riding in their slip with just 3 kilometers to go before the end of the race.
One imagines Perrow and Evans will be supremely confident now. They've got 2 seconds in hand, and undoubtedly, they are the strongest double combination in the country today.
And after many years of trying then, victory at last in this one elusive race for Mark Perrow and Neil Evans. They've won every other race as Cornish and Tarr finish very gamely. The narrowest gap in the history of this race, just 8 seconds separating positions 1 and 2. For Graham Pope Ellis, 43 years old, another superb finish. And for the Edmonds brothers, some disappointment at finishing 4th.
The leaders may have finished, but behind them, at side shoot in the Umkomaas Valley, over 1,000 paddlers battling their way to Durban, meeting all kinds of obstacles.
And whether they loved it or hated it, each one of those paddlers will go home with many a story to tell. One of the worst things that can happen to a duo, the indignation of going down a rapid backwards. But they got through.
And with a look of triumph, they carry on the race to Durban.
Well, some might have carried on the race to Durban. For others, them again? Have they been cleared for takeoff yet? And why do they always get out on the wrong side? And that water is still pretty cold.
Little John Rapid, one of the bigger ones, claiming many a victim on every doozy, year after year.
Stan Jones and his canoe club mate from Johannesburg tasting the cold waters of the Umkomaas.
Many paddlers electing to paddle around Burma Road through the bigger rapids to save themselves the excruciating portage over the top.
And with a very fine performance a little bit further ahead of these two, the top women in the race, yet again for Jenny Bentel and her twin sister Marlene Lowenstein. A superb race and victory in the women's section by almost 2 hours over their nearest competition. So Evans and Perrow then adding their name to this very exclusive club. And the same names like Pope Ellis popping up yet again shows what quality paddlers there are here in Natal. And the sport of canoeing alive and well in South Africa, with every class winner finishing in the top 5% of the field, 1,300 starters. And of course, victory for Transvaal at last.